Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and well, let's discuss another unexplained mystery in the universe that was only discovered approximately 5 years ago. And in this case, it's a mystery that does require a bit of an explanation, but if confirmed, this seems to present us with yet another crack in the standard model of physics. And here, to try to explain this, let's start with something a little bit more intuitive. Imagine you're looking at a clock, and well, for this clock, based on the laws of physics, you know exactly how the hands on this clock should be moving. But as you keep looking at this clock, you notice a tiny, almost imperceptible tilt in the rotation of the hands, a rotation that should not be there, as if the hands on the clock seem to rotate just a little bit more than they should. And well, it just so happens that in our universe, researchers might have just discovered such an unusual shift that's actually completely unexplainable and has now been confirmed by separate teams. And since the modern understanding of the universe depends on the standard cosmological model, the model that presents the universe as more or less symmetrical, here something doesn't add up because in this case, this parity symmetry, or basically that the laws of physics don't care about the left side and the right side, seem to be kind of violated. It suggests some kind of a handedness and some kind of a preference for side. And as you can see from this image behind me, all of this is currently based on the observations of the oldest light in the universe, the cosmic microwave background, with this new phenomenon now referred to as the cosmic birefringence. In this case, birefringence refers to a kind of an optical property that sometimes causes rays of light to split and to produce a kind of a double image or a slightly distorted image. But in this case, we're talking about birefringence that seems to result in a kind of a twist of light referred to as polarization. And if this is real, it means that the standard understanding of physics seems to be missing something huge. And so let's talk about these recent discoveries, including the observations from the Atacama Cosmic Telescope, talk about the actual discovery and possible explanations. But first, let's briefly go through what exactly this light is, or basically what cosmic microwave background represents, just so that we're all on the same page. And well, this, as I mentioned, is the oldest light in the universe. It's essentially a kind of an afterglow, formed approximately 380,000 years following the Big Bang, and formed as a result of the universe cooling down just enough to finally allow light to go through. And so once the universe was cold enough, it suddenly became transparent enough for the light to pass. And that's basically what this image shows us. And so this light has been traveling for approximately 13.8 billion years to reach us. Naturally, as a result, it's been redshifted for a very long time, and what used to be basically kind of yellowish and white in color is now only visible in the microwaves. But when it comes to light, it can also be polarized. And here, polarization simply means the light waves are vibrating in a specific direction, or that they're essentially shifted by a certain degree. And in cosmology, we usually divide polarization into two separate patterns, E modes and B modes. Here's a very basic image showing the difference from the study by Lazier in 2014. And normally, these two types of polarization are completely independent. Basically, most light either forms one mode or the other, and there should be no correlation at all. But if this EB correlation exists, it means that something unusual is going on, and it may also mean that there is some kind of a phenomenon we don't understand. We'll talk about this in a second. And that's because in quite a few recent studies, all of which as always you can find in a description, researchers started to find hints of this very strange correlation based on some of the recent data from the Dark Energy Survey and from the Atacama Cosmic Telescope. But at first they were not certain if this is a real discovery or just some kind of an error with the telescopes. For example, if the telescope was tilted by just a fraction of a degree, it could have created a fake signal. And so the point of some of the recent studies was to actually see if there is something going on. For example, in 2020, researchers Yuto Minami and Ichiro Komatsu used some of the galactic dust in the Milky Way galaxy as a reference point. And since the dust in this case only travels a very short distance of less than 10,000 light years, it should not be experiencing any cosmic rotation. And so by comparing the short distance of dust with the long distance CMB light, they could then subtract the telescope's error and find the true cosmic rotation angle, or basically discover if this distant light was indeed shifted by a little bit by something in between. And while using this method back in 2020, And by using the Planck mission and the WMAP mission, they discovered a shift of about 0.342 degrees. So basically less than half a degree, but still significant enough. But because this was the first such discovery and because this did not have a lot of statistical significance yet, a lot of scientists wanted to see if this was just a fluke or if there's really something going on. And so since then, for the last 5 years, independent telescopes and independent teams have been trying to thoroughly confirm this, because this was just really bizarre, and a lot of things became much easier to analyze once we got new data from this telescope. Basically, once Atacama Cosmic Telescope officially released its 6th data. But I guess more importantly, in some of these recent studies, scientists decided to avoid the galactic dust and focus on something different. They essentially used a precise model of telescope's optics, and once again wanted to see if there's going to be any rotation if they just look at the light's polarization. And almost right away, one of the teams discovered a tiny rotational angle of 0.215 degrees. So not as high as the previous value, but still significant enough. As a matter of fact, if you combine this data with the previous analysis, suddenly you have a significance of 7 sigma, which is way beyond what's required for this to be an actual finding. And that of course implies that, for some reason, there seems to be something going on with the cosmic microwave background that basically makes it tilt by a tiny fraction of a degree. Intriguingly, additional studies using South Pole Telescope try to see if this is actually something that seems to be in every direction, or if this birefringence seems to depend on the location you're looking at. And while right now the telescope has not found evidence that there are any variations, suggesting that this seems to affect all of the light. In other words, light coming from the entire universe seems to be tilted by a tiny fraction of a degree. And just to help you visualize this again, in this image you're seeing a 360-degree rotation, but these studies suggest a rotation of just 0.2 to 0.3 degrees. But I guess the main question is, okay, so if this is real, what's possibly causing this? What's actually causing all of this light to shift by just a little bit and to rotate by 0.2 to 0.3 degrees? Now, normally when we observe polarization, it's usually the result of magnetic fields. But the thing is, magnetic fields are very different depending on the location, and so we should not be observing the same rotation from every direction. So basically, because the rotation here is constant, it seems to be caused by some kind of a field in the universe itself that affects all of the light that passes through it. And so here scientists propose at least a couple of explanations. Now, none of them of course are confirmed yet, but they do provide us with certain explanations for other mysteries of the universe as well. For example, mysteries of dark matter. And that's because one of the explanations is a type of a hypothetical particle called axion-like particle, or ALP. These would be extremely light particles all over the universe that would actually explain quite a lot of physical anomalies, but also serve as the mysterious dark matter. So basically this is one of the prime candidates for explaining dark matter effects, and according to theories, they could actually form their own fields permeating the entire universe. And so in this case, as the photons from the cosmic microwave background travel through the field, they might interact with it using what's known as the Chern-Simons coupling. If you want to know the actual explanation, it's in one of the studies in the description. But in a nutshell, it would kind of act as a cosmic crystal, or a cosmic prism. It would rotate the plane of the light's polarization as it moves through it, with the light eventually acquiring this tilt. But on the other hand, other studies also propose that maybe this is not dark matter, but the other mystery, dark energy. The bizarre field, or the bizarre effect, that causes the universe to expand faster and faster, with this extremely light field driving the expansion of the universe, but also causing some of the light to tilt. And so here this might not be an effect from a particle, but instead some kind of a field that causes the entire universe to expand. Although additional studies suggest that this might be a really complex interaction of fields, involving at least 2 or even more types of particles, all of which potentially responsible for either dark matter or dark energy. But the recent study from 2026 even suggests that some of the previous calculations might have underestimated the actual rotation angle. In other words, the rotation angle might not be just 0.3, but might be even much higher, such as 180.3 or even 360 degrees 0.3. In other words, they're suggesting that there is a very high chance this is a much higher tilt than we previously assumed. Or basically that this light could have done the full circle, or even multiple circles, like you see in this image. With the main point being that, well, so far, the results seem to be more or less consistent, that there's something going on here. We just have no idea what it is, and what's causing this light to shift, or why the universe is doing this. And even though it might seem like some kind of a niche measurement and something very tiny and not important, this does potentially represent an entire revolution in modern physics. Assuming this is confirmed in future observations, this is going to be a clear sign of physics beyond the standard model, and the first direct evidence of some kind of a violation on cosmic scales, but more importantly, possibly a final hint on what exactly dark matter is, or possibly on what dark energy is. And that's because at the moment we have no idea what's producing this. But we will have data soon, because certain experiments such as the Simon's Observatory experiment and the Lightbird satellite are currently collecting even more data and are going to be reporting all of this very soon. And so until then, I guess for the next few years, this is still going to remain a mystery. But since this was only discovered like 5 years ago, and since this is actually such a groundbreaking discovery, this is one of those things we'll definitely discuss again very soon. And so until those future updates, thank you for watching, subscribe, come back tomorrow to learn something else, support the channel on Patreon where you can find additional videos without any ads and can DM me directly, or by joining the channel membership that grants you early access. You can also support this channel by buying the Wonderful Person t-shirt in the description below. Stay wonderful, I'll see you tomorrow, and as always, bye bye.